The restoration of the lost gardens of Heligan began over a decade ago, around 400 years after Heligan first passed into the hands of the Tremaines. At that time, Heligan Manor was at the heart of a 1,000-acre estate, sited in dramatic countryside near Mevagissey on the south Cornish coast. The house itself was largely rebuilt at the end of the 17th century, with a formal garden immediately beside it, but the old maps show only traces of walls and pits that might have been the start of a larger garden. Heligan's golden era came to an end with the onset of the Great War in 1914, when much of the workforce enlisted, and many of those were never to return from the battlefields. The Tremaines relinquished their home to a series of tenants, and gradually a veil of overgrowth smothered the past glories of the garden. Dereliction and decay took hold until Heligan's fate was finally sealed by the Great Storm of 1990. Or was it?
Although now easy to spot from the air, the lost gardens of Heligan had slipped gently to sleep through the past century, eventually to become almost concealed in overgrowth. The First World War decimated its workforce, and its owners, the Tremaines, then moved away, leaving a series of tenants to manage this vast land base with ever-decreasing resources. Now separately owned, Heligan House still stands above a series of steep valleys, surrounded by pasture and woodlands, with the productive areas and pleasure grounds to the north. At its Victorian zenith, this was a substantial country residence, housing successive Tremaines, their families and staff, all of whom were sustained by produce from the gardens and estate. But throughout the 19th century, the Tremaines also developed Heligan for their pleasure, and were pioneering in their introduction of trees, shrubs and plants from foreign climes. To the south, Heligan House looks over the impressive subtropical plantings that they established more than a century ago, and down into the woods and lakes of Lost Valley. Beyond is the fishing harbour of Mevagissey and the open sea. Welcome to the Lost Gardens of Heligan. I'm Peter Stafford, and I've had the pleasure and privilege of being associated with this mysterious place since the height of the restoration in the mid-1990s.